Well, good morning and welcome. I just want to talk to you about the grassland. We've had some pretty shocking weather over the last 8 months, and really want to show you what the effect it's actually had on the fields here. There's 3 fields around the holding here, all very different in their own right. But as we're approaching now the end of May, what we just started the last week in May, it's a good time really to see what impact the very wet winter has had. We had a very cold, very dry April. We're now into an equally very wet May. So all things combined, I just wanted to show you what's actually happening with the 3 fields. So we'll just stop here and have a run round. Right, so this is the first area. You might recognise this from some of the videos of baling. The video that actually introduces all the videos was taken here. This is it's effectively some conservation grass. It's something that you probably liken to an original hay meadow. It won't have been fertilised, sprayed or anything for 60 plus years. It was actually part of a very old meadow. There's just a couple of acres in here, and this is one of the original rides. But this is traditionally it seems to fare very well regardless of what the weather's like. You can see here it's getting some length to it now. It's thickening up. There's all manner of species in it. It is very species rich, but it doesn't show signs of any major problems. When we look at the next one, which is the bigger field, you'll actually see a complete difference. This one's fairly consistent. As I say, it's getting good growth. It's getting some good bottom into it. So this one, I think it should be okay. You can see some of the wildflowers that are coming on now, and in this area we also have quite a lot of orchids. Although it does vary with season, you know, whether again it varies with cold, wet, sunshine hours, anything like that, but it does vary from year to year. So again, you'll have seen for some of the other videos that this we mow probably into August. We'll make sure everything's seeded okay, and I say this looks really good. This bit here is kind of part of the same, or it will be. It was an area that actually used to be full of conifers, which we took down a few years ago, and trying to restore this. I haven't mown this one yet, and this still needs a little bit of work. You can probably see some of the stumps which are in it, and just really having to get those down. But I think the plan really is to be able to try and get the stumps sorted out, top it, clean it up, and then probably next year hopefully take a hay crop off it as well. So this bit is a work in progress. Right, so on here we really do have a bit of the good, the bad and the ugly. The good, I think, is the fact that we've managed to widen the field out a little bit. It used to have a track running down this side just to get to the barn. Last July, when I had an excavator in, and I levelled it all out, took the fence out, and over the winter pushed back the blackthorn hedge. So that's looking better, and the bits of reseeding that were done, again we'll see some of this reseeding over in the smaller field. Got a bit of clover in. That's taken really well. I'm really quite pleased by that, because it's always difficult knowing when to put seed in. You're so hit and miss regarding the weather. So that's thickened up, and I think overall, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. But at the moment, every extra bit of ground you can find to take a crop of hay off has got to be good. Then the bad is that, as I say, you can still walk through this. You know, by now really we should have the grass up to a reasonable height, and shouldn't really be able to sort of walk through it. You can see there's areas that are greening up and areas that are not, and I think this is where the ugly comes in, because there's areas like this that there's hardly any growth at all. I'm not sure if you can make it out, but there's strips up the field which are very green and looking okay. So there's one there, another one here, they're looking okay, but in between are these patches. don't know if you can make out, just as you look over here as well, big patch of relative bare here, and then another strip of green. Now I think what this really is, it's not my dodgy fertilizer spreading, well, it could be actually, but I think this is just because it's sat wet all winter. If you came down here in January, this was just absolutely sopping wet, and it could be that what we've got is the land drains underneath these greener bits. So I know the previous owner, he did have a fence along here, and he did say that he had hit some of the land drains when he was putting that in. So and the ditch actually is in the background, just behind that. You can just see the tree boundary. It's just behind the fence there. So I suspect this has got quite a significant drainage problem, and that the green bits are the bits that are managing to drain, and the other bits there's very little drainage, and it's just sat wet all winter. So the solution really is, I'll probably just show you over the edge of the ditch if I can. The ditch, again, I knew when I bought it that the ditch hadn't been cleaned out for ages. The solution really is to clean the ditch out and invest in some drainage. When you think that the crop loss on a field like this, I mean, a decent crop on here would be, let's say, 450 bales. All you need is to be down 100 bales a year, and that's sort of 500 quid worth of income. I mean, there's very little difference in actual sort of cost associated with that. So 10 years, 5 grand, and your drainage is easily paid for itself. So I think when we have an excavator on site, the thing to do is to have a look at what we can do to just get some more drains into here. It might be possible to do some drains locally around here to try and pick up, intercept the drains coming down the field, or whether we have to go a little bit further, we can soon look at that. But this is a lesson, and going forward, trying to correct issues like this by putting more and more fertiliser on just isn't the right course of action. You know, the cost of that fertiliser for a start, but environmentally we're never going to be encouraged to be putting more fertiliser on. So actually doing these things that will be good for the field long term in terms of putting the drainage in, I think has got to be the way forward. The work that we've done on this field as well, it gets spot sprayed. That had to wait for proper weather a few weeks ago, but that was really being done in between the showers. You know, you get a dry morning like today. I mean, today's forecast is dry till about 11 o'clock, and then it'll be chucking down for the rest of the day, and that's how hit and miss it has been. But in the dry spells, I've had a spot sprayed with Grassland Pro, which works really well. A couple of hours, and that's rain fast, and that's okay. And then other bits and pieces, I do check it for ragwort if there is anything that usually gets dug out. So it's relatively clean sward. I don't put too much fertiliser on because this does go for low sugar hay, so there's a premium in that. So what I don't want is too much really thick, lush, high energy grass. So it does suit me a little bit not to have too much thickness in it. So what we have done is to put 2 applications of 20-10-10 on, 25 kilograms per acre. Tried some at the very beginning of March, which is a little bit early for us, but what you got to be careful of is you don't end up hitting a long drought, a long dry spell. So for splitting 2, so I did one then, and then second 25 kilograms an acre, I think it was about towards the end of April, when it looked like it was going to start raining, which eventually it did. So it's a case of hedging your bets really. This field as well, we did have it soil tested, and that showed that it was okay apart from low on sulphur, which is not uncommon nowadays. There's not much industry around here which is going to put a lot of sulphur into the air. So that gets, I think it's had 2 years now where it's had 25 kilograms an acre of sulphur. Back end of February, early March. Now it's a bit difficult knowing when to put sulphur on, but it's quite noticeable that the prills take a very long time to dissolve. So what you really want is for the sulphur and the fertiliser to be working together. So I tend to give the sulphur a little bit of a head start in terms of trying to get that prill to dissolve, and hopefully the pills for the fertilizer will be dissolving at the same time. So that's the general state of play here. I wouldn't like to predict any sort of crop on here at the moment. As I say, there's these horrible bare patches, but other areas are not too bad. But I think the next 3 weeks, I don't like to cut too early, to be honest. There's no benefit to me. So the next 3 weeks is really going to tell, and I think get warmed up now. I think this would shoot away, not so bad. So I'm just going to try and show you over the hedge into the ditch, and then you'll understand what's going on. Now I think this is the real issue we've got. Is this is typical of the ditch that runs down the side. Even now it's got water standing in it. It's really not been cleaned out for a very long time, and I think until we can get this sorted, we're going to still have problems in this field. It does affect my neighbours. My neighbour's field over there is quite wet at this side, and but trying to get a machine in to be able to reach over and do it is a real problem. Trying to get at it from the wood, access into the wood isn't very easy, and down here we've got all this this growth, which again, environmentally, you're really not that keen to start disturbing. You know, if I ended up sort of chopping the top off that, it would eventually regrow, I guess, but it's quite a major piece of work. So we're going to have a look at what the options are, see how time, money and energy sort of sit, because I think getting that sorted out, it'll be the key to it. One of the other interesting things along here is that during that drought period, mostly during April, having that little bit of shade from the wood is a really good thing. The influence of the wood is actually quite positive. So you get areas like this where the grass has taken off reasonably well. I think that's the case over in the first area that we looked at as well. So being close to wood, it has got its liabilities, but it has got its advantages in terms of actually getting the grass growing. So this is a small field, and it's coming along really well. All I've done this year is to widen the edges. So where you see this overhanging branches and shrubbery and what have you, that's been pushed back a little bit. When I had the excavator in last, was it July, I got rid of the plough lines all the way around the outside, just shoved everything back, because over time the wood was generally sort of encroaching towards the field. And it's a small enough field as this, and so what I really wanted to do was make it big enough that try and get machinery around it a little bit easier. So that was fine, and like the other field, this has received 2 lots of fertiliser at about 125 kilogram bag per acre. It's just over an acre is this anyway, and it also had its sulphur put on. So fertiliser in two splits, and the sulphur I think end of February like previous. So this is coming on. It's we've checked it for weeds and what have you. It's all looking pretty good, and I think we've got high hopes that with some warmth this one will get going. So there we have it, a bit of a mixed bag really, and we'll just have to see how things go over the next few weeks. It's a good spell of really hot, dryish weather would really bring this on. So all's not lost, and I'm sure many of you are having very similar problems, certainly around the UK. But things do tend to equal themselves out at the end of the day, so let's hope for the best. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.